you are
15
reading
seconds.
script? Oh, we're doing
Yeah.
script this time? Oh, never mind. Don't listen to me.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Start with Madison. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go.
An Oklahoma man on the 15 most wanted fugitives list was arrested earlier this week.
And we'll recap the Cowgirls' Bedlam win from last night. All this and more on the Daily O.
Hello and happy Friday, Cowboys. Welcome to another edition of the Daily O. I'm Madison Dildine.
And I'm Miranda Stiles. President Donald Trump is purposefully declining to send Congress a report determining Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman's involvement in the murder of a Washington Post journalist. Saudi Arabia has admitted last year's murder of Jamal Khashoggi was premeditated, and a recent New York Times report cites the Crown Prince told a top aide in 2017 he would use a bullet on Khashoggi. However, the White House still refuses to meet the legal requirement to report by today's deadline. This comes immediately following the introduction of legislation that would require mandatory sanctions on those responsible for Khashoggi's death. The legislation is bipartisanly supported, and it would also include a ban on certain weapons sales to Saudi Arabia. An Oklahoma man and member of the U.S. Marshal Service's 15 most wanted fugitives has been arrested earlier this week and returned to the U.S. Thursday. Luis Octavio Frias was found and apprehended in a suburb of Guadalajara, Mexico. Frias is accused of stabbing former Blackwell police officer Janet Reyna in August of 2013. Officials arrested him upon his return to the States at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport. They used the same handcuffs that Officer Reyna was issued upon becoming an officer. The arrest comes after the U.S. Marshals received a tip generated from the Investigation Discovery show In Pursuit with John Walsh. This tip led the authorities to Jalisco, Mexico, where they found and arrested Frias on Wednesday. The warrant was officially signed upon his re-entry into the States. And now let's go to Zach Kluver with his international debrief about U.S. relations with Afghanistan.
Since the United States and NATO allies invaded Afghanistan in 2001, the war has continued in guerrilla skirmishes and small-scale urban battles. The battle between the Taliban, a radical and fundamentalist regime that has been fighting for power in the region since the 90s, and the U.S. may finally come to an end. Donald Trump has signaled many times that he wants to cut down on American wars across the globe, and in his most recent speech, the State of the Union address, he was as blunt as ever.
Great nations do not fight endless wars.
Trump is not the only one who is hoping for an end to the conflict. The old adage that the enemy of my enemy is my friend appears to have come true in the Afghan region. Although the Taliban has been at war with the U.S. and the Afghani government for nearly 20 years now, the arrival of ISIS as another domestic rival for territory has begun to stretch the power of the Taliban thin. In the wake of this and many other factors, the Taliban has decided to try and make peace with the United States. ISIS and the Taliban may both be groups made up of Islamist extremists, but that certainly does not mean they are friendly towards each other. The Taliban see themselves as the legitimate successors of the government that was toppled by the United States in 2001, and ISIS seek to create an empire across the world, including territory that the Taliban would want to rule themselves. This ongoing conflict is part of the reason they agreed to peace talks with the U.S. and Moscow. They agreed to do so only on the condition that the government of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan would not be there, as they view it as a puppet of the United States. So, somewhat bizarrely, the country that has received the brunt of the damage from the Taliban and the war is not present at the talks. The Taliban has also softened its stance on many issues that were contentious during the short period it had dominion over Afghanistan. Women will be allowed to attend school and work, most notably. They have also agreed to never allow terrorist groups to use Afghanistan as a base of operations again. Previously, the Taliban's refusal to extradite Osama bin Laden was used as justification for beginning the war. If the talks are successful, and the Taliban ends the war with the U.S., although it may not with the state of Afghanistan, we will finally see closure to the second longest war in U.S. history.
Thank you, Zach. A state house Committee-approved bill would allow Oklahomans 21 and older to carry firearms without a permit. Former Governor Mary Fallin vetoed a similar bill last May, but new Governor Kevin Stitt says he supports the measure. The bill now heads to full House for vote, while a similar bill has been introduced to the Senate. Stitt says Oklahoma will be a state that protects the Second Amendment. The bill would make Oklahoma one of 15 states that approve some version of permitless carry, with South Dakota being the latest addition in 2017.
Much of the state is currently melting off the results from yesterday's ice storm. Central Oklahoma received rounds of freezing rain and below freezing temperatures yesterday, causing multiple schools across the state to cancel classes. The Emergency Medical Services Authority responded to 36 wrecks across Oklahoma, and local firefighters responded to 28 additional injury accidents over a span of 9 hours. That follows the Oklahoma Highway Patrol's response to 83 non-injury wrecks and 12 wrecks with injuries in the state from Wednesday night to Thursday morning. Now we're going to throw it over to what's trending with Carney Porter.
Happy Friday, Cowboys, and welcome to the weekend. I'm sure y'all have been waiting for it to come around all week, even with that extra day off we had on Thursday. Some of you have plans that you're looking forward to, like a weekend getaway with your friends, or maybe you're like me and sticking around Stillwater looking for inexpensive ways to get you out of your apartment. Well, luckily for you, I've come up with a list of activities that might spark your interest and, more importantly, won't break your bank. If you're a fan of Mozart, you might want to check out A Night at the Opera presented by OSU Opera Theater. It'll take place at the Saratine Center for the Performing Arts on Friday and Saturday night, beginning at 7:30. Admission is only $7 for students. And if you're a morning person and love to craft and show off your creativity, you might want to check out Second Saturday. You can participate in design challenges and create your own DIY project using your old t-shirts. How cool is that? Second Saturday starts at 11 a.m. on Saturday, of course, at 720 South Husband Street, and is free of charge. And if you can't find a Valentine's Day gift for that special someone, why not make it instead? At Knit Your Heart Out, a local artist will teach you how to make a knitted heart and provide yarns of all colors. The workshop will begin Saturday morning at 10:30 and will be held at the Prairie Arts Center. Admission is $20. And that's what's trending. For the Daily O, I'm Carney Porter.
Thank you, Carney. You may not know it, but many Oklahoma State students walk across a vital part of American history every day. Our own Dan Norman tells the storied history of sidewalks that you probably don't know.
It's hard to imagine now, but there was a time in the United States when as much as 25% of Americans were out of work. This was during the Great Depression. To help fight this, President Roosevelt signed into action many programs to assist Americans, including the WPA, or Works Projects Administration, which gave employment to as many as 3 million Americans at its peak. The WPA had many projects all across the country, but in Stillwater, the project that continues to affect our lives is something we use nearly every day, but never really think about: sidewalks. Many of the sidewalks in Stillwater were laid as part of a WPA program in 1939, and though most of the original has been replaced or updated, many of these WPA sidewalks remain in the neighborhoods around OSU's campus. While something as simple as a sidewalk may seem to have little importance in our lives, it's important that we understand what these sidewalks represent and the historical context of the time in which they were laid. These sidewalks can serve as a reminder of one of the most difficult times in U.S. history, and a reminder of our ability to adapt, and more importantly, to overcome incredibly harsh conditions. So the next time you walk through a neighborhood and see one of these stamps, think about what this seemingly inconsequential piece of concrete meant to the men who laid them: work and survival.
Thanks, Dan. You can find those WPA logos all across the Stillwater area if you look closely.
Before we get into break, let's take a look at the weather outside in your 7-day forecast. We hovered right around freezing today in Stillwater. The overnight low is 19 degrees. If you have plans tomorrow morning, be aware that it may be a little slippery on the roads again, so make sure and plan a little extra travel time. It's going to warm up this weekend, and we'll be back around in the 50s next week. Up next on the Daily O, David Moore will have sports. We'll be right back.
In my mind, I was never going to walk right again. Before we were through, we had walked 23 steps. And that was my first steps of freedom. This patient is saying thank you.
What is arts and sciences?
We aren't all about the arts.
We like to think of ourselves as explorers.
From exploring the human mind
to discerning the building blocks of the universe.
We don't just read books.
We don't just sit in the classroom.
And we don't just solve problems.
We seek to give everyone a voice.
In a variety of approaches.
We tackle the big issues.
By understanding complex social structures.
And even understand the small ones.
We take passions to new heights.
But stay grounded.
We tell stories.
Of the past.
Of the present.
And work to predict the future.
We like to think with a little preparation. Some dirt under the fingernails.
And some self-analysis.
You can do anything.
With nearly 100-degree plans to choose from.
Where will your arts and science degree take you?
Connect, achieve, succeed.
Welcome back to the Daily O. I'm David Moore. It's going to be a busy weekend for Oklahoma State athletics starting tonight inside Gallagher-Iba Arena. Cowboy Wrestling looks to remain undefeated as they welcome Air Force. Number 2 Oklahoma State looks to make quick work of Air Force and move to 14-0 on the season and 8-0 in conference matches. The match starts at 7 p.m. Cowboy basketball is on the road in Austin as they look to complete the season sweep of the Texas Longhorns. After dropping a heartbreaker to TCU in Fort Worth on Wednesday, Coach Mike Boyne and his team look to rebound and get back into the winning column. Tip-off is slated for noon on CBS. The Cowgirls look to build on their Bedlam victory tomorrow night in Lubbock. Coach Jim Littell will look to Vivian Gray, Braxton Miller, and Jaden Hobbs to propel his team to victory. In the win over Oklahoma, Hobbs and Gray combined for 50 points. Gray had a career-high 33 points, while Hobbs had 17 off the bench, including 12 points behind the arc. That game gets started at 6:30 on Fox Sports Southwest. Reed Spencer and Logan Mosier discussed the Cowgirls' Bedlam win and looked ahead to tomorrow's matchup with the Lady Red Raiders earlier today in the hit show 1-on-1.
Right.
OSU Cowgirls on Wednesday night started out down 12-2 to the Sooners. And then they fight all the way back, have a good lead at halftime. It gets close again, but they end up winning by 10, 84-74. Vivian Gray and Jaden Hobbs combined for 50 points. So without those two, maybe different game.
Oh, yeah.
But what a performance from the Cowgirls.
Absolutely, and we talked about it. It was a great bounce-back opportunity for the Cowgirls after they had gone on a 4-game losing streak. And they capitalized on it. Like you said, they went down early. They fought back. It was close in the end, but they ended up pulling out the 10-point victory. So you got to take that as a huge win. That's a moral victory and a victory that goes on the record book, which you need if you want to make the NCAA tournament. So I thought that was a great showing by the Cowgirls. Hopefully they can ride that momentum into the next game and through the rest of the season. Because I thought they played really well. I thought they played like they did early on in the season.
For OU to be as bad as they are defensively, they're the 5th worst in the country.
Yeah.
I didn't think they quite exposed it as much as they need to. They still dropped 84 points.
Yeah.
But I thought it could have been better, and I think Coach Littell would probably,
agree,
share that sentiment. But a good performance, give 50 points from Vivian Gray and Jaden Hobbs, that you're not going to complain about.
Right.
But they do have a game this weekend as well tomorrow in Gallagher-Iba. But they're taking on Texas Tech, a team that they've beaten before 65-57, down in Lubbock. So now they get the Red Raiders again in Gallagher-Iba. But what do you envision tomorrow? Because they kind of need to have that Vivian Gray, Jaden Hobbs. Maybe you don't need 50 points. Excuse me, the game's down in Lubbock. I was thinking it was here. But the game is in Lubbock. Texas Tech's 10-12. So kind of like You saw OU. They're struggling a little bit. They were their last 5.
Yeah.
So they lost to Baylor.
It's a little bit of a struggle.
I'm going to read you the score. Do you know what it is of that Baylor game?
I'm sure it's like 30 points or something. I have not seen it.
96-37.
Oh my gosh.
And they lost to Iowa State 105-66. So they have been blown out a couple times over the last couple weeks. So this might be an opportunity for Oklahoma State really to
get things rolling,
get things rolling, get a winning streak going here to finish out the season.
After that Texas Tech game, they come back home to play number 14 Texas, then go to Iowa State, number 22. They're coming up on a rough stretch, so like you said, hopefully they can get kind of some momentum and a winning streak going. And obviously you can't ask for 50 points from Gray and Hobbs again, but you can still ask for that same kind of effort, the same intensity they were playing with, because they were getting it done against the Sooners. And like you said, fifth worst defense. You can't ask for a repeat of what you got against that. But I think this is a good building block. I think they have a great chance to go down there, play their kind of basketball, and go on a little bit of a win streak.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have a good opportunity against the Red Raiders. You talked about a Texas team. You only lost 2 by 9, but they've struggled at times. You could probably try and expose them here in Stillwater.
Mm-hmm.
At Iowa State's going to be difficult because a team that dominated you at home.
Right.
But West Virginia, a team you're more than capable of beating. Kansas and OU, and then you have Baylor and K-State. So some teams they've lost to, and Baylor, they played them tough. Certainly probably going to go Baylor's way.
Yeah.
But they still have an opportunity. It's going to be tough. They're going to have some really good performances. They're sitting at 13-8, 7th in the Big 12 now. So they need a couple upsets. They really, quite honestly, probably need to win out.
Pretty close. I think you can afford
tournament.
Yourself 2 losses, but I don't think it can be to a Texas or an Iowa State. I think you can afford to lose to Baylor, and that's really it. You need to go on and have a little bit of a good winning streak, win some tough games on the road in Iowa State. I think if you can play Baylor tough, the committee will look at it a little bit differently than if you just get run off the court. But like you said, they're not totally eliminated from the tournament race quite yet. We'll have to see. Hopefully they can go on a little bit of a winning streak and upset Texas at home, and maybe they can upset Iowa State on the road. We'll see.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well,
Cowboy basketball will look to complete that sweep of the Texas Longhorns, but first they'll play in Kansas tomorrow in Lawrence against number 13 Jayhawks. Moving on to the NBA, even though Anthony Davis is staying in New Orleans after not being dealt, that doesn't mean that the NBA trade line was boring. Former number 1 pick Markelle Fultz is taking his talents to Orlando after being sent to the Magic. In return, Philadelphia will receive Jonathan Simmons and a couple of picks. Longtime Grizzly Marc Gasol is heading north to Toronto to join forces with Kawhi Leonard and Kyle Lowry as the Raptors prepare for their postseason push. And the Pelicans did make a move, sending big man Nikola Mirotic to Milwaukee. The Bucks gave up 2 players and a couple of second-round picks in the trade. Yesterday, the NFL released the prospects that will be showcasing their talents at the NFL Combine. Oklahoma State running back Justice Hill and defensive end Jordan Brailford will be representing the Cowboys among the 338 prospects, with the hopes of hearing their name called at the NFL Draft in April. Hill and Brailford will be a part of 33 Big 12 prospects that were invited, including Oklahoma quarterback Kyler Murray. Among Murray, 6 of his fellow teammates will be joining him at Lucas Oil Stadium. The Combine takes place in Indianapolis, Indiana, and begins on February 26. A familiar face will be spearheading the XFL's team in Dallas. Former Oklahoma head coach Bob Stoops was introduced as the head coach and general manager of the Dallas franchise yesterday. Stoops retired from OU in June 2017 and has not officially held a coaching position since. A reconfigured Globe Life Park will be the home field for Dallas when the XFL debuts in the spring of 2020. Next up, we take a look at a high school wrestler's journey to become part of one of the greatest collegiate sports dynasties in history.
History is rich here in Stillwater, Oklahoma, but none is more decorated than the wrestling program of the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Young wrestlers from all over come to Stillwater to be a part of the special program that is Oklahoma State Wrestling. About 2.5 hours south of Stillwater, in the small town of Comanche, Oklahoma, resides another young wrestler, a special talent at that. Connor Doucette is a junior at Comanche High School. He's a two-time state champ at 195 pounds and has garnered attention across the nation. Today we got a chance to hear his story about becoming a great wrestler and his decision to continue his endeavors as a cowboy in the near future.
I'm Connor Doucette. I go to high school at Comanche. I wrestle at 195 or 220 pounds. I think that just only focusing on wrestling, once I knew that's what I wanted to do, I think it gave me a lot more opportunities to get better, gave me a lot more time and a lot more freedom to go places to get the knowledge I needed. I think I always wanted to, but I really sat down and made it my goal probably like 6th grade. I told my dad that that's what I wanted to do, so we kind of went all in and just ran with it. I mean, they first contacted me this year, September 1st, when they could legally start contacting me. I mean, I think they've known about me for a while. They used to do camps down here every summer, so they've seen me before. But really, September 1st is when they hit it hard. OSU, it's close to home, so my family can come watch me, and you're not going to get a more rich tradition than Oklahoma State has between all of its wrestlers that they got on the team now and before, and their coaching staff is next to none. My parents have spent endless hours taking me to practices. Sometimes we drive, when I was little, 2 hours every day to get practice in, or they would drive me up to Iowa or Ohio or Pennsylvania and New Jersey just to go and get the competition that I needed, and they sacrificed a lot. I think I'll be excited. Like, it's been a pretty big dream to go out there and compete for OSU, so I mean, it's going to be cool to go out there and finally get to do it in front of one of the best fan groups in the country.
In the spring of 2020, Connor Doucette will make the change from being an Indian to a cowboy, and will hope to carry on some of that tradition along with him.
That's all for sports. Don't go away. We will have more after the break on the Daily O. Have a good weekend.
Determining your future by selecting a major can be difficult.
It's okay to be undecided.
Connect with the College of Arts and Sciences, where your options are endless.
Where you can uncover your passions and achieve your goals.
Express your creativity by exploring a career in the visual and performing arts.
Investigate new discoveries to make the world a better place with a career in science.
Advance knowledge, communicate progress, and contribute to a healthier planet with a career rooted in the social sciences.
Discover your career by looking at the world from different perspectives through the humanities.
Realize a better tomorrow through problem solving and mining data that can change lives.
Casper prepares you to succeed through internships, study abroad, student-guided research projects, and service activities.
With 109 majors, 52 minors, and 24 departments, the only thing missing is you. College of Arts and Sciences.
Connect.
Achieve. Succeed.
When you have a team of physicians and nurses that really truly care about their patients, that translates into patient care.
It's a small practice, it's a small town. Everybody really takes that time to put the patient first.
Everybody cares what's happening to me and that I'm making progress and I'm gaining my freedom back and my mobility back. This patient is saying thank you.
This spring, I invite you to shop in downtown Stillwater. Downtown Stillwater is home to locally owned shops, boutiques, eateries, and dependable professionals that you can trust. Find the perfect gift for your graduate, have a delicious meal with mom, or just stop in to enjoy great spring savings. By creating a demand for local goods and services, you can ensure a place for the local businesses that help give our community character and keep it unique. On behalf of Downtown Stillwater, thank you for shopping local.
What is arts and sciences?
We aren't all about the arts.
We like to think of ourselves as explorers.
From exploring the human mind
to discerning the building blocks of the universe.
We don't just read books.
We don't just sit in the classroom.
And we don't just solve problems.
We seek to give everyone a voice.
In a variety of approaches.
We tackle the big issues.
By understanding complex social structures.
And even understand the small ones.
We take passions to new heights.
But stay grounded.
We tell stories.
Of the past.
Of the present.
And work to predict the future.
We like to think with a little preparation. Some dirt under the fingernails.
And some self-analysis.
You can do anything.
With nearly 100 degree plans to choose from.
Where will your arts and science degree take you?
Connect, achieve, succeed.
If you missed the beginning of the show, President Donald Trump declined to send Congress a report determining Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's involvement in the death of a Washington Post journalist.
The State House Committee approved a bill that would allow Oklahomans 21 and older to carry firearms without a permit. The bill is now heading to the full House to be voted on.
Oklahoma State Wrestling is hosting Air Force tonight in Gallagher-Iba Arena at 7 p.m. Be loud, be proud, wear orange. That's all we have for you today on the Daily O. I'm Miranda Stiles.
And I'm Madison Dildine. Have a good weekend, Cowboys.
What is arts and sciences?
We aren't all about the arts.
We like to think of ourselves as explorers.
From exploring the human mind
to discerning the building blocks of the universe.
We don't just read books.
We don't just sit in the classroom.
And we don't just solve problems.
We seek to give everyone a voice.
In a variety of approaches.
We tackle the big issues.
By understanding complex social structures.
And even understand the small ones.
We take passions to new heights.
But stay grounded.
We tell stories.
Of the past.
Of the present.
And work to predict the future.
We like to think with a little preparation. Some dirt under the fingernails.
And some self-analysis.
You can do anything.
With nearly 100 degree plans to choose from.
Where will your arts and science degree take you?
Connect, achieve, succeed.